just have to understand. In fact, some of my most contributed mentors were mentors long before I ever met them. But because I learned from them and used their stuff, when I did meet them, they were curious. See, John talks about the lid, the law of the lid. The lid is the cap. Well, in business, you actually have three caps. You have the belief lid cap, you have the operational effectiveness lid cap, and you have the leadership lid cap. And this is what got John in 2012 when he heard this talk. I was running an event with 1,500 business owners. I had John Maxwell, I had Jim Collins, and I had Story Musgrave, the three author mentors who I had never met that I built this whole three lids concept off of in 2011, 2012, and rolled it out in 2013. And John came to the event and he heard this talk and he said, this answers so many questions for me. You need to come work with my team on this. We did it, and then we doubled John's business in a year. John brought Jim Collins in and started saying, you got to listen to this guy. And so, you know, your mentors, you don't actually have to know, you just have to understand. In fact, some of my most contributed mentors were mentors long before I ever met them. But because I learned from them and used their stuff, when I did meet them, they were curious. And then I've gotten to know all my mentors, and I've worked with every one of my mentors at some level. So now you introduce Grant and Elena to that. Not only am I working with them, but we're partners. So I think it's important to understand. People ask me all the time, how do you find mentors? Well, you find mentors based on your deficiencies, and then you find people to fill those holes with information that you can apply. And then when it changes your life, you give back to your mentors by talking about how they changed your life. It doesn't, nowhere in there doesn't mean you have to meet them. Does it make sense? So these three lids work like this. The higher you believe, the higher you achieve. If you believe low, you achieve low. So if you're at $1 million, you're like, oh my God, I just want to get to 3 billion. I just know my whole life I want to get to 3 million. You get to 3 million, you're like, I've arrived. But what about the person next to you who's like, I want to get to 30 million. Boom, they're at 30 million. And you're like, how'd that happen? It all started with their thinking, because your actions follow your thoughts. And law of attraction is law of intention, law of action, law of attraction. If I am fortifying getting to 3 million, I'm gonna get to 3 million. And the whole premise of the 10X rule is whatever you're thinking about, you better 10X it, because when you arrive there, you're gonna be disappointed. Because you recognize at that point in time, you were not thinking big enough. Now, if I have this belief about what's possible, but I don't put any operational effectiveness into achieving it to get better, what's the likelihood the people around me and my own belief will sustain if I'm never moving towards target, high or low? I'm very fortunate in some of the places I live, who my neighbors are. I was having a cocktail with Michael Phelps down in my Cabo house, and I asked him, Michael, what was harder, shattering everybody else's records or having to shatter your own? And he said, my own, because I could model and mimic and master what other people were doing to beat everybody, but then I had to change everything I was doing to beat myself. And as I changed the things I was doing to become more effective and I became less effective, my confidence actually went down, and then I questioned myself, why am I changing everything? Why don't I just go back to what I was doing? And then now I'm confused, and where there's confusion, there's always failure. So the resilience and the fortitude to stick with it and move the increments so you could beat a little time here and beat a little bit of that there. But now you got a new problem. You got everybody following what you're doing, coming after you. So not only are you smashed everybody else, but now you got everybody else trying to smash you. So it adds a whole nother layer of complexity, and this is where leadership comes in. There's 3 forms of leadership. Just like having a remarkable experience with an employee or with a client, actually each have 5 different aspects to that you have to master all 5. You can't just wish it into place. Like if I want to have a remarkable employee, I got to find, I got to attract, I got to align, I got to develop, and I got to retain them. I mean, otherwise, if not all 5 of those things happen, I will never have a remarkable employee. So if you're not an expert at those 5 things, you can't, then you've gotten lucky. So when you have 2 of anything and it works, this could be luck. A couple buddies, a couple friends you know, but then try to go to 20 or 200 and see what happens. So with this belief mechanism is so important, because as soon as you lower, if you're the top lid in your business and you lower your belief about what's possible, what happens with everyone else that works with you? What about the ones that don't? Like, you know what, who cares? We don't need to go to 10 million. You're happy making your 80 grand a year. I'm happy making my 500 grand a year. Let's just stay where we're at. And the person that's like, I ain't happy making 80 grand a year. I want to make 300 grand a year. What are they going to do? See you later. So what happens is as soon as you lower your belief, as soon as you lower your activity, other people around you that are like, oh yeah, they're like, oh, I gotta go. And now you collapse.